Scruffy Audio Network.
Hey, we're finally here.
We're here.
Hey, I'm with my man Chad Speck on a Friday morning. I also have the great privilege of JP Arancibia sitting on the couch. He's going to go next. He's in for a day from Miami. We had a great time in Miami, JP and the family. It was nice. Food was delicious. I mean, the hospitality, those Cubans really do it up, Chad. All right, so I don't know, Speck, program director JP, I'm getting a lot of info on how I should introduce myself, and I don't like it, but there's a guy that works out on Saturdays named Diamond Dave. He looks like an older Burt Reynolds. He's got like a porn stash working still.
Nice.
And yeah, well, and he goes, you know, Charles, you need to introduce yourself so people know who you are. And I was like, what? What is that? Like, should I go, hi, I'm Charlie Petrone. I've been in the business 28 years. I train business guys, professional athletes. I mean, really? That's a little generic, right? Okay. So we're not going to do that. All right. So Chad Speck is here on a Friday. Thanks for giving up the time. I appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be here, Charlie.
Oh, he's got the best voice. He could do like that telemarketing or the 1-800 you call me numbers. You know, if you called me or whatever that is. Yeah. All right, Speck, I'm going to open it up like I always do. Thanks to Diamond Dave. I do like this question that he took interest in helping me out with. When did you know, like Chad Speck, a lot of people don't know, he's a sports agent last 15 years, played collegiate football at Clemson, was a safety, he was a great athlete, played against Chad Pennington in the Marshall game. We talked about that when you were on the first episode.
Got beat.
With
Still
Emily.
Pissed about that.
Got beat. Yeah. It was an amazing game. Death Valley was amazing. That was my first Clemson game, and it was awesome. And it's just, world is so small. We talked about that yesterday. Something was going on last night, and we said the world's so small, meeting different people, but never knew who Chad Speck was. He never knew who Charlie Petrone was. And then all these years later, we come back around and like, brothers. And the only way I say brothers is because we argue, we fight. Hey, no hot water. Hey, we out of toilet paper. That workout sucks. Throws it back at me. That type of jazz. I'm like, Jesus loves you today, Chad. Jesus loves you. And I love you.
And you
too.
love that facility fee.
And facility fee. But it's stepping up now. I mean, we got like
it's big time.
It's but the facility fee's not going up, so it's kind of cool. Right? I mean, it helps pay the rent, you know? All right. Number one question I like. When did you know you were different as an athlete?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Man, put me on the spot right off the top.
I told you, that's the only one that...
Different meaning that we're just wired differently?
Okay, like, I've also been told not to pull it out of people,
right.
But when I asked Harrison that question, he said he really didn't know. Dobbs knew in Pee Wee football. Our legend guy, Helton, told something, but he's going to be on later, but he knew when he did something that... Hey, that was a little bit different than the rest of the team, the rest of the pack, the rest of your age. But I want to leave it up to you. When you knew, I never knew I was different. I was just average.
Right.
So I was happy to be, hey, I got picked. When you look at the roster, yes. I mean, everybody has to have standards. I always say if you can't hit your goals, lower them.
That's true. I don't know. I mean, I guess my answer would be, when colleges started to, contact me.
So you didn't think you were like different in high school? Sophomore year usually turns for a lot of the guys I trained.
No, I mean, sophomore year I was surprised. I won my school's Athlete of the Year award my sophomore year. Usually that goes to an upperclassman. I was given some different, awards, on our football team. We won the state championship in Texas that year. And was recognized for some stuff that was a little surprising to me, maybe looking back on it, and kind of started to realize like, hey, maybe I might be able to play this game a little bit longer than, just through high school. So I guess if I really wanted to pinpoint it, I mean, sophomore year is where things started to change a little bit, especially on the football field.
All right. Okay. So So the next question I ask, and, JP is probably getting some intel because I'll ask him the same type of questions. Did you play more than one sport?
Absolutely.
I'm a fan of athletes playing a lot of sports.
I mean, I go from, football to basketball to soccer to track. Kind of gave up baseball early on because it's so boring.
Whoa,
JP loves that.
Whoa, we got two stick and ball people here.
Soccer's a tough sport.
Yeah, it is a tough sport. But no, just being honest, I got burnt out on baseball. Just played it so much growing up. You know, I mean, JP, you remember? I mean, it's even worse now. But I mean, it's you play your season, then it was All Stars, then it was traveling All Stars, then it was year round, and really, quite frankly, I vividly remember as a kid getting fed up because we weren't having fun anymore. The parents were arguing at every game. They were arguing with the umpires, and we were just sitting there. And I was just like, you know what? That was when Michael Jordan was hot, and I was into basketball, you know, mostly. And
Did you play basketball in high school?
So, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have thought I was going to play basketball in college all the way up until probably my sophomore, junior year in high school.
So it was basketball, football till what, your sophomore year?
It was basketball. It was football.
When did you quit baseball?
I quit baseball probably like towards the end of junior high,
right.
or like in junior high. Yeah.
And then it was all three. And what you do in track?
I mean, just pole vaulted, and then did relays, just a number of events.
I mean, that's why I love these shows, the podcasts. I love them because I've known you for years, and it's like you always get something that you didn't know on somebody. Yeah, just the one-on-one of sitting down. You know, it's different even than sitting in the office with 5 or 60 athletes. I'm making the workout and everybody's talking. This is just like, it's different than eating because we're shoving our pie hole, so it's different. But I didn't know track, so I'm sure you sprinted because you can still jump, right?
Yep. Did all those, most of the relays, 400s, the 4x1, 200 meters.
But you didn't stay in the same high school, correct?
No, I went to 3 different high schools.
Yeah, that's a big. That's something to overcome with a lot of these. How did that happen?
Well, mostly just my dad's job. You know, moving around and that kind of thing. Yeah. And so we were in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, South Lake, Texas. And then we went to a school in Denton, which is where he's from. And then we moved to Tennessee right before my senior year of high school. Is
there one high school that you would be like, I know for me, you know, staying in New Jersey would have been my druthers for sure, of like, oh, shit, I'm out of Jersey. Is there one where you would be like, man, I wish I stayed there, my friends were there, the coaches, or?
Well, we won the state championship my sophomore year, and then in football. And then my junior year, we were undefeated until the state semifinals and lost in the state semifinals. And I was the only player that we lost off that team. So I knew we were going to go the next year. My senior year, we would have they rolled through everybody in one state. And so that was hard moving to Tennessee, knowing that you're giving up another state championship. I mean, I was first team All-State on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, and so it just kind of, you know, you knew you were giving that up when you had to move. But it was one of those things that I felt like I needed to do. My parents actually gave me the option to stay with friends, and I thought about doing it. But at the end of the day, you know me, you know my faith's really important to me, and I just felt like God was calling me to come to Tennessee, spend my senior year with my family and parents, and move to Nashville, and, you know, it worked out great. I wouldn't have ended up at Clemson. I wouldn't have ended up with, you know, so many things in my life had I not done it.
What high school was that in Nashville?
CPA, Christ Presbyterian Academy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've trained some kids out of there.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know it was CPA. I knew you were in Nashville. I didn't know. Okay, so we go through Clemson. You play at Clemson. You're a safety. You're athletic. You know, did you know, like, every senior college athlete, like, I'm going to give pro day a shot and do all that type of jazz?
No, I had my third shoulder surgery right after my last game, which was the Gator Bowl of 2000.
Do you remember who you played?
Yeah, Virginia Tech, Michael Vick. They beat us, but I had shoulder surgery the following week, and I had 7 concussions in college, diagnosed, you know, and they didn't really diagnose them back then. So who knows how many I actually had. So I was kind of ready to be done. I mean, I could have given it a shot. I mean, it probably would have been, I mean, we had the XFL back then, which is starting to come in. We had the NFL Europe and that kind of stuff. It would have been a hard route, you know, that way. I mean, I got to play because I worked harder than everybody else, not because I was, you know, necessarily the most talented, you know, at that level. I mean, obviously when you get to major D1 football, everybody's good.
And some people that say they work hard is great, but you also, like, I'm sitting here with 3 talented individuals in their sports, and you put hard work with some talent, you're going to get some results, but you have to have, like you said, everybody there has some talent. So to separate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I knew when that Gator Bowl was over that I was done, and I was kind of mentally ready for it to be done. I mean, my body was hurting. You know, been through, you know, kind of a lot as far as that goes, the concussions and the
So there
shoulder
wasn't any,
surgeries and-
like
I didn't do pro day.
no pro day,
Yeah.
shut it down. And when you're on Sundays, we know you're, world famous sports agent now, and NFL's your big deal, but you're dabbling in the golf and not even dabbling, but, really kicking its ass right now. When you watch Sunday games, you're like, man, I wish I could have played. Do you miss it at all?
There'll be times where you miss it, sure. But that's gotten better over the years. What I really miss is competing. You miss that big time.
Yeah.
I mean, when you grow up playing, all the time, you miss competing. I'm sure JP can relate, to that.
Well, that's why I think that's why you like in the Woodgym for the 3 days that you come is you really get after it. You're always watching everybody, and that's a whole other story. But JP competed today. He beat a guy in sprints. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Good.
I mean, he never stops.
Walked him down.
Yeah, he did. He was like, forget the dumbbell curls, dropped and started sprinting.
Yeah,
he beat Old Man River. I think that guy hung out with Jesus. This is one of his friends.
He did.
All right. So, how did you know when you did? I don't know this story. You get out of Clemson, you go to law school.
Yep, here at Tennessee.
Okay, so you found your way over here, or you got accepted. Okay, you come here. Did you know? That's one of our two questions. When did you know you wanted to be a sports agent?
Yeah, well, I went to law school for the sole purpose of being an agent.
So you knew right out of Clemson, like.
Well, I knew that I wanted to stay in sports. I knew I wanted to stay in football. I had two interests. I've also always been interested in the law, to a certain degree. So I knew that I either wanted to coach or I wanted to try to, be an agent. Because I thought, that kind of married the two interests of football and the law. I don't know why I had an interest in the law, just always did, kind of growing up, those kind of. Not that the law is anything like TV, but, courtroom dramas, all that kind of stuff was interesting to me. Kind of have an analytical mind, as you know. And so I I decided to do that. And I thought, like, hey, if it didn't work out, I can always go be a coach with a law degree, So that's why I came to law school. I didn't come to law school with the idea that I was actually going to practice law. And I realized that when I clerked for a law firm in town, I was like, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to bill hours. I didn't want to be a practicing lawyer on a daily basis, but I did want to get the education because I thought it would help me, in representing players. So that's why I went, with the idea of that's what I was going to try to do.
Okay. You've been doing it 15 years plus. Because your hours are flexible. I mean, that's kind of cool too. It's not like, you're sitting in the courtroom all day, but your hours are flexible of stuff we don't see either.
Yeah, the hours are flexible simply because, I started my own business.
Right.
I don't work for, anyone, per se. And so with technology and with the idea that, I'm the owner of the business, I can kind of set my schedule, how I want. And that's really where the autonomy comes from. Right. I mean, if I was working for CAA, one of the largest agencies out there, it would probably be much different.
And your business out there for the viewers and listeners is A3 Sports?
A3 Athletics, what we call
A3
a Allegiant Athletic Agency.
And it's in a real cool spot in Market Square. I love it. I mean, that matches so.
Yeah, we're right above Stock and Barrel.
I love it. I mean, I took my program director. We were out there meeting with somebody that wanted to meet about the podcast show. And I said, let's see if he's there. And happened to know it. He was on flexible hours called Flex Schedule. He wasn't. We walked up and scared
I was probably out of town.
Yeah, we scared a guy, but the place was full of wood. And I love that place.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, imagine the training facility being underneath that. That'd
be nice.
With Stock and Barrel, get a couple bourbons and.
Yeah. And all the wood, it all connect.
Oh my God. I love it. All right. So now let's progress into. We know what you do. We know half the guys you represent, the big boys, the Eric Berrys, the Hainsworths, the guys that I know. Now you're in the golf. Now you're doing stuff. But I wanted to get you on the show this week and this month about April. So take me through the last 3 or 4 months, or probably fall. You would know more than I about what an NFL agent does from the recruiting process, the NFL Combine, the Pro Day, and the draft and post-draft. How does that look? And then we could segue into the other thing.
Yeah, well, recruiting is similar to, anybody listening that's been recruited to college. It's a similar process. Agents have to recruit their clients. So any player that potentially is going to get drafted in the NFL, especially the really big-time players, those players or their families are talking to agents, easily prior to their junior year. Definitely a good year in advance, typically, of when they're going to be drafted. And there's so many guys in the first round now that are underclassmen. So you have to start early. And there's certain rules. You got to make sure you abide by those rules. You got to register in the state. You got to register with the schools typically, and you got to make sure you don't violate any NCAA rules because you can't, obviously jeopardize a player's eligibility. But you can talk. There's no rules against talking as long as you do it, the right way and follow the procedures. And so, I mean, you're trying to meet players. You're trying to meet their families. You're
Talk
trying
about
to go.
recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was on my head. The social media, has that become like an easier tool or a worse tool compared to 10, 15 years ago where it was always just phone calls or voicemails? It went text message to or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. I mean, the stuff is off the chain now. Is that easier? Can you do more recruiting or
well, you can definitely connect.
Watered down?
I think more so than anything, it just gives you a lot of information about whether or not it might be a fit. I mean, I'm real big on fits,
so
in terms of absolutely.
You watch the players and see what they're tweeting out, and
no question about it.
It's a
and
guy that we
can see, you can find fit. You can see what they like. You can see what they're into. I mean, every team in the NFL is following these guys on social media. They may not know it. It may be some kind of almost a ghost account, but they're following them and they're checking it out and they're seeing what's up. And we do the same thing. Got it.
Right. Okay, so you recruit the player. You get the player. How does the next stage? I know it's combine prep.
Well, we're immediately, the biggest thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about our business in the NFL is prepping for the NFL draft is we have to invest in the player. So we're going to have easily $30,000 or $40,000 in a player before they ever get drafted. And so, that's where not every situation is like that, but most of them are like that. And some of them are significantly above that number. Because we immediately become responsible, as you know, for paying for their training, paying for their living, making sure they have some money, in their pocket, during this process. So we're not just preparing them for the draft, we're preparing them for, we're having to basically just cover all their living expenses. And, it's gotten worse and worse over the years. What is expected, what players expect their agents to give them and pay for, whether it be guarantees or advances or any of these things. And so that's the most difficult part of it. I mean, you've got to have the resources, obviously, to be able to do those things. So right off the top, you're spending money. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Right. So when you think of it from a business perspective, I mean, they've got to go a certain place in the draft, and you have no idea where they're going to go when you sign them. You might have an idea based on talking to teams, GM, scouts, et cetera, but at the end of the day, you don't know where they're going to get drafted, and you don't know. Hopefully they don't get hurt, but they could get hurt in the process, and your money, is down the drain. So you got to be real selective, with what you're doing. I mean, we've talked about this, all the time, over the years. And then you've immediately got to really get on going in the pre-draft process. Yes, there's some of the cool stuff like marketing deals. They can start signing with Nike, or they can start doing trading card deals and whatnot. But really, you got to start getting them ready for the draft. Because the NFL draft, the first round pick is a 4-round contract. A 4-year contract with a 5th-year option, team option. Every other contract in the draft is 4 years. And it's slotted. So you're really kind of dictated what you're going to make. We negotiate the rookie deal, but there's just kind of a small window of which you can negotiate. So the best way to make the most money on your rookie contract is obviously to go as high in the draft as you can possibly go. So we got to start to prepare them for what I call the evaluation events. Okay. If you're a senior, maybe you're in an all-star game. Maybe you're in the Senior Bowl. Maybe you're in the East-West Shrine game. Hopefully you got invited to the combine. Then you have your pro day, and then you have your private workouts and potentially team visits. Those are your opportunities to get in front of the people that will actually make a decision on you in the draft room. The general managers, the ones that can actually turn in the draft card on draft day and pick you. So everything we do is prepping those guys to put their best foot forward during those evaluation events.
Okay. So, for again, Speck is a plethora of knowledge and the information is amazing, but let's back it up to the people out there, the viewers, the listeners. I appreciate you guys listening and viewing. When does this start? Like January 1st, after bowl games?
Players can sign with agents after their eligibility's up. Right. So if they made a bowl game, after their bowl game. If their team didn't make a bowl game, as soon as, the last game of the regular season's over. So it could be anywhere from December to the middle of January.
So you're putting a lot of time and a lot of money into these guys for 4 months, basically, right?
Absolutely.
Your guys, you're probably monitored, even here, you're like, hey, I'm out of town this week, or you going to watch them, or pro days, and you're at the combine. And, yes. Right. Okay. So you bring it all the way up to, you go to the combine, then people, pro day guys, then the draft starts. Now, where are we, 2 weeks out? Is it 2 weeks
Yeah,
out?
well, it's Thursday the 25th, first round.
The first round. And you usually always have one first rounder. Since I've known you, you've always had a good first round, solid guy. And how does that play into, like, do you start getting more calls, and is it more tense leading up to the draft?
Well, really, it's kind of the opposite. I mean, it's stressful in the sense because, you don't have any control over it. I mean, you know me and probably pretty much everybody in this gym, we always talk about type A personalities, and we like to control what we can control.
Right.
And the draft, you're completely out of control. You don't know. The player doesn't know. I mean, my goodness, most of the time the teams don't know until right before they make their pick, who they're taking. So as the draft gets closer, kind of the haze in the barn, so to speak, and the only thing you're really doing is kind of trying to manage and set expectations in the client's mind at that point. So we'll network. I mean, I'll talk to general managers across the league, about our players, where do you see them fitting in the draft, late first, early second, third round, fifth round, sixth round, that kind of stuff, and then try to manage expectations. So I'm going to have a conversation with every player we represent in the draft going into it and just kind of saying, hey, look, we have no idea how this is going to go, but this is kind of what I'm hearing. And I think, you could go as high as this area, or you could, potentially fall as low as, this area. So,
right.
You hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and then just realize at the end of the day, if you've done the work, where you goes in God's hands and take it from there.
Well, you hit on a key word there, expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I work a lot with expectations with training the athletes.
Yep.
And you work a lot with the expectations of representing the athletes. Do you find most of the time, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, that they think they're projected higher than what they are?
Yeah, 100.
100.
Yeah.
And then it's your job to go, hey, listen.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in telling
I
them the truth. I mean, you'll have agents in my business that are going to tell players what they want to hear just to get them signed. I mean, you've seen me in situations where, I don't do that. I just don't think it helps anybody. I mean, I think that don't shoot the messenger, but this, I'm being told you're a 4th or 5th round pick. No, I'm a 2nd round pick. Well, I'm just telling you what I'm being told,
right?
And what good does it do to not hear, the real stuff,
right?
And if you end up going higher than that, awesome, great, that's good for everybody. But I don't want anyone to go in there thinking they're going somewhere when in reality, what I'm being told is they're going to end up, in a different place, and everybody's going to be disappointed, and you overpromised, you underdelivered. I mean, like I said, agents, we don't have any control over where they get drafted. All we can do is prepare them the best we can for the process, and then where they go is where they go.
So do you feel like that you catch more, again, it's a correlation from you guys, that they're disappointed with the representation if they are 4th round, and, this agent told me I was going to go 2nd round, I should have went with them but you have no...
Yeah, it's always the agent's fault.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You never get the glory, just the
we're just
smack.
like you. I mean, if they don't run 4 threes, it's your fault, right?
Yeah, I never get a fist pump.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about that on a radio show a couple of years ago. It's like, what's the worst thing? What's the best thing working with athletes? The worst, and the worst is nobody's satisfied.
Right?
Because they want those expectations so high.
Yeah.
All right, so draft week, you're definitely going, right?
To the draft?
Yes.
No, I won't be there. We're there. The only agents that will ever be typically at the draft is if you're representing a player that's invited to the draft.
Okay.
There's like 20, 25 players every year that gets invited, and that's the ones that they really feel like are locked first rounders.
Got it.
Now, I've been several times. Cool experience.
Right.
It's great. It's fun. But this year, our highest guy is a guy that's probably a late 1st round or early 2nd round projection. He could go somewhere in there.
Okay.
So he wasn't invited to the draft. So we won't be there. We'll actually
Will you go
be
the 2nd day, 3rd day?
No. Nobody does that. We'll just be watching on TV.
All right, I didn't know that.
That's part of everyone thinks, you kind of got this inside behind the scenes, knowledge of what's going to happen. I mean, my gosh, a lot of times we find out our players drafted by watching the television.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, though, for the two people not interested in our conversation, looking at their phones and computers, is I actually see more coaches at the tables on the 1st round, and I know Speck knows that.
Well, you'll see their college coach. It's a recruiting thing. I mean, everybody wants to be on TV and look good.
I mean,
and that
you really
stuff.
see that.
So,
It's a smart move, but you're like, okay, whatever. Okay, one last question with the draft deal. Do you like the way it moves around? I know I've had a lot of 50-50 with the athletes in here, where it used to be
in New York every year, and
Radio
now it's moving
City,
around.
town, whatever it is, and now it went to what? Philly, Dallas,
Nashville, Chicago. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I like it. The NFL is going to do anything and everything they can to make a dollar. So that's what it's all about. The only thing I don't like about it is the best interest of the players are never ever thought about. It's all about just what's going to make the most money for the National Football League. It's yes and no. I mean, it's fun to go to cool cities. I mean, the one great thing about it being in New York is once you've represented a player and been up there a few times, you kind of get how they do it. You know where you want to be. You know what hotels you want to stay in. You know kind of what it's going to be like. Whereas when it rotates every year, it's kind of like, all right, we got to figure out this city now because we're doing all the behind the scenes work, right? If you have a player that's invited, they're bringing family, they're bringing friends, and so you're managing all that. So it makes it a little more difficult when you're dealing with cities that haven't hosted the event before. But it's also cool to move it around. Without
getting too detailed and complex, because you're a smart dude. Mm-hmm. I've always said that. You're a smart guy. Your brain's brainiac. How do you break down negotiating a bonus? Because you say the rookie salary is already set, and I think that took some of the agent savvy out of, wouldn't you say, like it took out?
That's easy.
Right? Okay, now that's, okay, so I'm hiring Chad Speck, A3, I'm giving you 3% because that's the standard rate, right? 3%. You can negotiate that. Max. Yeah. I mean, which I think is ridiculous.
That's the maximum. Yeah. There'll be players that try to get you to take less than that.
I know we have a player sitting on the couch. So we have a player sitting on the couch, sports agent.
I'm not a player. I don't play anymore.
God, he's so aggressive.
JP would have paid me 7%.
Hello.
No, I paid 4.
And then we have an NFL owner in here, and the difference of a sports agent looking at a player to an NFL owner. Now that's really that's a really complex deal because one sees it black, one sees it white.
Sure.
Right. So how do you do the bonus if that's the thing? I'm going to Chad Speck, and you're known for contracts.
Right.
Negotiating. Your high tense negotiations. Right. We get that. How do you do the bonus? How do you make your worth stand above the rest?
Well, it really depends on whether or not you're dealing with a rookie contract or a veteran contract. It's two totally different situations. The rookie contracts have always been slotted in the NFL. Just in the old system, there was a little more window, but they were still slotted. In this new system, if you know what you're doing, it's actually really, really easy. I mean, there's an equation of what each slot's worth. You have to figure that equation out. And then you just got to push for the max value of that deal. And depending on where they go in the draft, what area of the draft, first, second, third round, et cetera, depends on, how much of the deal they'll be able to max out. And so really you're just making sure that, they're getting what they're supposed to get based on their slot. And there's a minimum value of the slot and there's a maximum value of the slot. And so you're pushing for the maximum value. And, as long as you kind of know what you're doing, you should be able to push that where it's supposed to be. As far as the signing bonus, you're going to be able to figure out what the signing bonus is. You got the maximum signing bonus. You got to make sure you get that. And then 2, you got to make sure it's paid out, in a fair and appropriate way. I mean, so what a lot of people maybe not understand is, let's say, someone gets a $5 million signing bonus. You think, well, you get that when you sign the contract, right? Not always. Typically, you get part of it, within maybe 10 days of signing the contract. And then the teams often want to push it out another year, 6 months to another year out to pay you the rest of it. So, you'll look at a myriad of factors of what makes sense. I mean, maybe from a tax standpoint, it makes sense to push it over 2 taxable years. So you'll talk to accountants, about that. And maybe you're representing a player that, is going to struggle with money early on. And so just in terms of the best interest of the player, it's like, what, let's push some of these payments out. Let's give them some opportunity to make some mistakes with their money, learn, et cetera, so that, they don't make mistakes with all their money. And then other times it's like, no, the fair thing is this thing needs to be paid out, right now. So you're thinking about all those things when you're structuring the bonus.
So you get 3% off the contract. You get 3%, I always get this confused because people ask, does Speck get 3% off contract, 3% off bonus? And what does he get off marketing?
We get the standard in the NFL is the maximum is 3%. Okay. You'll get some players that try to get you to take less than that. But it's 3% of the dollars that you negotiate that the player actually earns. So you get paid as he gets paid. Okay. So easy example. Player gets $1 million signing bonus, the gross amount, then he's been paid, then we can send an invoice for $30,000. Okay.
Off the bonus.
Okay.
What about the salary?
Salary is the same thing. Any dollars that he earns that we negotiated, we can get our fee off of.
But you get 3 and 3?
Yeah,
salary, or you combine it?
Anything in the NFL contract doesn't matter.
Okay.
So, and then marketing, the standard rate is 20% of dollars that you bring to the table.
That's what I heard. And you guys like doing the marketing? Is that?
Oh yeah, it's fun.
That's what I was going to say. What's more fun?
Well, my competitive juices get going on the NFL contracts.
Because you get to do you battle? Another question I have, because I got tons of questions, because you just come in here, we train a lot, and I'm busy, and you're coaching and yelling at people, putting dumbbells up, and the rep Nazi, and this one shortchange this, kick him out.
Yeah.
All these. Yeah. For the Christ-like follower he is, for about 45, 50 minutes in here, he's all flesh. So, does it, when you talk about the marketing?
Mm-hmm. Talk about the marketing.
Yeah.
Well,
is it different than with the owners? You know how, like, when you negotiate, do you go with the GM more or more of
depends.
The owner that was in here before?
Every team, ownership doesn't get involved as much anymore. Sometimes they do. I've definitely had negotiations with owners involved. Every team will have a salary cap contract negotiator. That's who you're doing kind of the legwork with, and then the GM will get involved, and then sometimes the owner will get involved depending on the level of the deal. I like that because there's a lot of strategy involved, and you can kind of get competitive in that way in terms of wanting to get the best deal, and so that's really fun. The marketing deals are really kind of few and far between for NFL players. A lot of people don't understand that. There's not a ton of NFL players that are making just really significant dollars off the field. Your helmets are on. You got your quarterbacks, but usually there's not even 5 or 6 quarterbacks that have national advertising, marketing deals across the country. So, but those are fun to do because those generate experiences. Okay. So, you may go to the Super Bowl and go to all these different vendor booths that are set up and do fun stuff. You know what I mean? We went to London with Eric Berry for an Adidas photo shoot one time, just stuff like that. Those are fun, interesting experiences, oftentimes interacting with fans, et cetera. When you're dealing with the NFL contract, it's business. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Marketing is business. The player's there to deliver, an activation for the company. But it's much more of a, kind of fun, enjoyable experiences, whereas the negotiation of the actual NFL contract is, kind of the real business side of it.
So would you say the reward, I know the highs and lows of just listening to you cats, the sports agents, would you say like, oh my gosh, we nailed this. We got, we negotiated. I felt like I did my job. We got what he was, we thought he was worth. And then the two side fold of that is, I don't think I've ever seen more competitive business in the sports agency world.
That's unbelievable.
Really competitive.
It's really cutthroat amongst competitors when you're trying to get players. It's kind of gross, really.
It's a different.
The best thing the most fulfilling thing about the job for me is when you see guys' lives change. When financially they've changed a generation. You go to a housewarming party for, Kevin King is one of our clients who's starting corner for Green Bay. And I got invited to a housewarming party where, his family moved into the house that he bought them. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome. They're great. They're just an unbelievably awesome family. And they've worked their butts off their entire life to provide for their kids. Mr. and Mrs. King have. And then, here we are sitting there and Kevin, gives them a house. And, that stuff is, it's really, really cool.
Right.
Really cool.
So everybody gets, it really is. It's a trifecta. Yeah. Everybody gets paid, the agent, the player, and then the family reaps the riches and the rewards of something they would never have if it wasn't for Chad, Speck, and King doing his job. So it's a twofold deal.
Yeah. Well, mostly the player being talented. But yeah, we got to know what we're doing.
You got to know what you're doing. Yeah. All right, our program director saying 35 minutes. So great segue into a guy that, traveled to Green Bay or wherever King was from to get a house. Let's open up. We're going to take it from the serious business Chad Speck to when he comes in maybe on a Monday and throws his towel down, coffee splashes everywhere and goes, can you believe blankety blank on the plane did this? So we've come up with a segment that we're going to do at Speck about traveling.
Yep.
Okay. Airline travel, the do's and don'ts. And when he tells me some of these things, I'm blowing snot bubbles out of it. It's funny. I got to watch when I drink coffee or water because, I mean, Speck's one of those dry sense of humor guys. You know, he's not going to pull you in when you walk in the door. He's not, I'm going to go with a Lil Wayne word, gravitable. Is that a word?
I don't know.
Gravitable?
It is on the Petrone podcast.
Okay, well, it is. You know, he's not pulled in, but once you start talking to him, you're like, this sumbit's funny. You know it? All right, so when I travel, and this is God's honest truth, when I travel and something's going on, and I'll give an example, then Speck, you could just roll with it. Program director could roll with it. JP could roll with it. When I sit in the middle seat, I don't know whose is
Why
what.
are you sitting in the middle seat is the first question.
Well, that is the first question.
Wow.
If you sit in the middle seat, you got screwed.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a story of my life.
Well, that's true.
I mean,
that is true. So
I got the aisle seat. Yes. Yeah. Last time aisle seat.
So it's amazing how many people actually won't get online and choose their seat, and so you get hosed with the middle seat. So sometimes you get stuck because you got to be on that flight, right? So and that's the only thing that's left if you have the middle seat. So everybody feels sorry for the person in the middle seat. Most everybody. You should. I mean, that person's gotten screwed. So the middle seat rules is that you get the armrest. If you're in the middle seat, you get both armrests. You have dibs on both armrests. Okay? Because you got the shaft, because you got the middle seat. Okay? So
You got a hot dog sandwich, no bun.
exactly. Hot dog sandwich, no bun. JP's got the best sayings ever.
Oh yeah. Hey, he's been in the microphone. He's been in front of one before. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the rule. If you're in the middle seat, then you have dibs on the armrest. And,
okay. Hold on. Just coming back from Miami or going to Miami. It just happened on spring break. I took the girls there. Where I was in my aisle, when the plane stopped, a dude got up 2 rows in front of us, maybe 3.
In front of you or behind you?
In front, okay? He's in front of us. 2 or 3 rows in front of us, and makes a beeline past me to grab his bag.
Going backwards.
Okay. And screwed the whole line up because nobody could get out of the way. So he was the guy that you talk about that you stopped almost. I think your strong safety years came back into effect when a guy got off, when it just came to a stop, and he came running up the aisle. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's 2 different situations.
Okay, but the guy why wouldn't he put his bag like where it is? Because he threw off the float.
So here's probably what happened is most likely he was one of the last ones on the plane, and there wasn't overhead bin space by his seat, so he had to go on further back in the plane to put his bag up, come back to his seat. Okay, so in that situation, like you just got to, you have to take it. You have to wait. You have to wait.
The dude has to wait.
The dude has to wait.
But he was muscling around.
Yeah, you can't go against the flow.
Right.
You can't go against traffic. You just got to realize, I kind of got hosed on this one. And, I just got to wait. I got to wait for the plane to clear, and then I'll go back and get my bag. That's kind of what you have to do. So the other situation where someone comes from behind you to try to get up the aisle, kind of before people stand up.
And that's happened to you.
Yeah, you can't do that. You got they're getting blocked. I'm telling you right now.
And you've done that before.
100%. You have to
Like,
step
what
out
do you
in the
mean
aisle.
block?
You step out in the aisle and you just bow up, and they're not coming past you.
And they're not. But even though they're in a rush to get out before you, even though they're behind you.
The only time that's okay is if the plane's late and you got connections. Okay. So, and typically, the pilot or the flight attendant will come on and just say, hey, those of you who don't have tight connections, we're a little late. Will you please kind of stay in your seat and let those that do have tight connections get on out?
Or do you take it? Do you take it in your own hand to go, hey, you got a tight connection?
No. You have to be respectful of that.
Okay.
If you're a professional traveler like I am, unfortunately, if you're a professional traveler, you have to, you have to feel for those people because you've been in that situation before. You're going to find yourself in that situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. The other one I like, I think there were probably about 7 that one day we were on a roll and we're like, God,
we can talk about this all day.
One day when I grow up and I do a podcast, we're going to talk about it. And Mama, I made it. I'm
going to write a book about this.
I'm serious.
At some point.
I'm serious. Yeah. We should do that.
Yeah.
Is nowadays everybody, and I find it a lot, even with the athletes that live with me, it's so distracting. And even when we go out to eat, I won't mention a couple of the athletes' names. They're represented by Chad Speck, A3. Is they'll be at the restaurant and FaceTiming
loud.
or watching something loud.
Yeah.
And didn't that happen to you?
Oh, yes.
And you told the dude,
Yes.
hey, you got earbutted.
Yeah. Earbutted.
Like you
100%.
said.
Yeah. So the guy sitting next to me was watching YouTube videos on his phone with the volume completely turned up and didn't have headphones on. I mean, you can't do that, right, Ollie? I mean, you cannot do that. So absolutely, I told him, I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. You're going to have to put headphones on or you're going to have to turn that off.
You said that.
Yes. Yeah. He put his headphones on.
Now, mind you, this is one of the nicest, gentlest guys I know. Some of the things he does, and everybody thinks I'm like this raging maniac. I would be like, oh my God, I'm going to have to ride with this guy all the way. I'm going to have to take one for the team. All right. So the other one that Speck goes to, and JP will get a kick out of this one. This is probably one of the best ones. I had to write down so I didn't forget it. The couple wanting to switch seats.
Oh yeah,
and
we talked. I think we talked about this the last.
I mean, this guy. Now, this guy does like his own sermons Sundays at the church. Like, there's nobody more involved in his church.
That's right.
In this Woodgym than Chad that I know of. I don't want to speak upon JP and Holly. Well, Holly I can, but JP I can't. Hey,
so here's the rules when it comes to
you told the
changing
lady
seats.
or the dude?
The guy. Yeah. So here's the rules on changing seats. Okay. If you ask someone to change seats, it should be an upgrade for them, or at worst a lateral move. So an aisle to an aisle, a window to a window, a middle to a middle. Okay, an upgrade for the person you're asking to switch, or a lateral move. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, you're not going to tell the person, hey, you're on the aisle, but I'm going to give you a shit sandwich and sit in the middle.
Exactly. There you go. See, perfect. And that's what happened. So not only is that what happened, but it was a 5-hour flight. Okay, so it was Atlanta all the way to the West Coast, and I'm sitting in. I'm a big Delta guy, medallion, Delta, etc. And humble
brag.
Yeah, humble brag. So, well, unfortunately, I'd prefer not to travel as much and be medallion, but that's where it's at. So, if I don't end up getting a complimentary first class upgrade, I prefer to be in Delta Comfort, which is their area where it has a little bit more room in the aisle. Okay, I like an aisle because I'm a little bit bigger guy. I like to be able to stretch out, and it gets back to that control thing. You kind of control the row when you sit in the aisle, right? So, so that's where I'm at. So I'm in Delta Comfort on an aisle, 5-hour flight. I'm like, I'm good. You get free drinks and Delta Comfort and everything. And so, couple gets on, and she is petite, really cool girl. And that's what you're looking for in the middle seat too. So I'm good. I've got, I don't have a massive person sitting next to me. This is going to be a good 5-hour flight. Her husband has the middle seat behind me, which is the first row of coach, not Delta Comfort. Okay. And so they're getting on and he's like, where are you? And she's like, I'm right here. And she's like, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm right behind you. He's like, unless this guy, and he points at me, he's like, unless this guy wants to switch with me so I can sit next to my wife.
Okay, in his defense, does he know that's Delta Comfort? Because it's the first time I've known about that. So that guy was like either a complete asshole.
Yeah, it looks different.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it's got a little sign on it and a little pad that says Delta Comfort.
So, okay.
I didn't miss a beat. No chance. That's what I said.
No, you didn't.
No, unless this guy wanted, no chance.
No, you didn't.
No chance. You can't ask that.
Did you even eyeball him and look around or just sit there reading a book or your phone?
And his wife even knew it was BS.
Right. Like, okay, 100%. So you totally, now I get it. He was asking you to downgrade, not a lateral move.
Yes.
Okay.
He was asking me to significantly downgrade for 5 hours.
If she wanted to sit by him that bad, she should have moved down, coach.
Yeah, or ask. Yeah.
She should have downgraded to sit next to her husband. But instead, the husband wanted to upgrade and kick you to downgrade.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. You can't do that. It's an unreasonable ask.
See, now, we talked about that, but it was in the office with everybody. Yeah. Now I understand.
That's completely unreasonable ask.
Really?
Violates the rules.
Nice try, though, right? Like, kudos to getting it out there.
No, you can't even put that out there. It makes you look like an idiot.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I think another one about the gates. This is the one that got you. Thank you, program director. Well, we'll wrap it up after a couple more, but we could go on and on with these. The gates. And I know, as JP just said, the humble brag. I had to fly Legion to Fort Lauderdale. So it was one of those zone 1, zone 2, zone 3s.
Right.
How does that happen when you could tell like the first time traveler is in zone 4 and it's zone 1 and they're up in line?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's this is one that gets me. I mean, they start to board and then everybody just hovers right around the gate.
Do they not know that the plane's not taking off in 10 seconds?
They may not know that.
I mean, do you wait? I like to wait till last
it's
minute
unbelievable.
to get.
I'm telling you, like if you want to see the collective stupidity of humanity, just go to the Atlanta airport.
That's what I'm talking. That's what I wanted out of Speck. Yeah. That's what I wanted out of
right there. It's unbelievable. It's real clear. I mean, your boarding pass tells you when to board.
And you could tell everybody gets agitated and frustrated standing around. They're halfway in line, not in line. And then where does that line start? Because I've always gotten into disagreements with people.
It depends on the gate.
And it wraps around, and then some people walk up.
Sometimes it doesn't.
And you get a lot of eyeballs. Like that. I'm surprised there's not more fights.
The gate attendant sets that, dude. As soon as they come on and they go, hey, don't stand up for your group, then it makes a big difference. If they don't say that,
then it's a free-for-all. And then some gates, they've got the little stanchion set up to where you get in line, and some don't. It depends on the airport. Totally depends on the airport. But I think what causes it is, they charge you to check your bag. And so people want to make sure they have space, to get their overhead bags in. And so that's why you want to get on the plane,
early
to make sure you've got space above your seat. So you're not having to do what we talked about earlier, go up and down, that kind of stuff.
Got you.
So that's what they're doing.
Okay. All right.
So really the airlines kind of started that when they started charging people to check bags.
Yeah, because now you look at some of these bags and go, are you serious? Like that, how is that? Nobody wants to check bags because of the fees and all that.
Right.
How do you control, this has been my number one thing, the seat lounger button when people push back? Do you set your standard first with knees right in there where it's not coming back? Or are you going to be gracious host and, hey,
occasionally
you go back,
I've done that,
back?
But I kind of think that it's got a recliner on it, and so you're not violating rules if you use your recliner.
Okay.
You can be a little more respectful of someone behind you if they're, like my partner Ike. If Ike's sitting on there with those 6'6" legs, and the knees are up in the seat, maybe I'm not going to push it back, but I can't crack on anybody for using the recliner.
I could honestly say I've never pushed the button and went all the way back because I always felt bad. I'd go just enough.
Yeah. You just don't do it fast though.
Yeah.
Especially if
nice and smooth
and slow, so you don't knock stuff off their tray table.
Yes, that's another one where the guys, like, I always get the heavy set gentleman that's doing that, and my Coke and peanuts are flipping around. I'm like, does this guy not get it?
All right.
Do you ever say anything?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Chat. He pulls his hair.
Yeah.
Ask him about kids with behind you hitting the seats.
Oh yeah, banging. Yeah, 100%.
So
you have to. So, when I have my kids on the plane, if I see them doing that, like, it's my responsibility to, no, son, you got to stop that. You're banging their seat in front of you. You're banging the people behind you, or that kind of thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a good start to like part 1, part 2 of travel. Well, I really, I love the travel part. The agent stuff is cool. The playing stuff is cool, but the travel part, I mean, yeah. When you did the earphone thing with the dude, like, you have to put earbuds in that. That was probably one of the funniest things.
Well, the best is when I snap pictures for you and send them to you. And I'm like, yeah, this guy's getting ready to get called out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You do.
Yeah.
I remember him doing that. And then I was in a couple tight situations, didn't know what to do. And I'm texting him like, please
remember when I sent yeah, I need to know what to do here. You remember when I sent you the video of dude on FaceTime?
Yes.
And like as loud as can be?
Yes.
On FaceTime on the plane?
Yeah. And you go, I'm going back. It's almost no disrespect.
But wasn't he speaking in Chinese?
Yes, yeah, he was. Yeah. I mean, it was, I mean, you could have heard him in the back of the plane. Yeah. It was unbelievable.
It's when he said, I'm going back, like, I'm going in. It did. Yeah. It's no respect to the 9/11, but that's what those people said on the planes. Like, let's go, let's roll. Yeah. I'm going, and that I took it to where Speck is like, he is going to go rip this guy.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation too. You always have to be ready in the event. You have to do what they did that day too. That's a more serious conversation. But I'm always ready. I'm always ready. I'm looking around. We're ready to roll.
I like that. I'm always ready. All right, we'll end on that. I'm always ready. Well, Chad Speck, thank you so much. I know it's been a long morning. We started grinding here about 5:45, and I hope you had hot water. And I liked our conversation. And hopefully you go eat with us at 9:30 if you can. I mean, you do own your own business. Flex hours. I love it. Thanks, Chad. I love you to death, man. I
All right,
appreciate
love you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right.